Hey, my name is Elliot, and today I'm going to be giving a quick talk about running AI apps on AO. So to start off with, I'll explain a little bit about why you'd actually want to do this in the first place, run AI on the blockchain. And then I'm going to go on to showcase a real AI app we have running on AO right now. And finally, I'll give a quick guide on how you can get started developing AI apps on AO yourself. So just to preface, I wanted to give a very brief introduction to R-Weave and AO, which are really the two technologies that make all of this stuff possible. So first of all, there's R-Weave, which is a permanent storage chain. R-Weave's been around for more than 6 years now, and it really just does one thing really well, which is, of course, permanent storage. And just this year, the same team behind R-Weave launched AO, which is a compute layer built on top of R-Weave. So each of these technologies has their own sort of special sauce, which gives them this outstanding property called arbitrary scalability. And what that basically means is you can throw as much data at R-Weave or as much compute at AO as you want, and they'll be able to handle it basically indefinitely. So it's really kind of a level above other blockchains where they're limited by stuff like block size and TPS. Really, R-Weave and AO, they don't really have this limitation basically at all. So it's going to be able to scale to whatever needs your application has, and no matter how much adoption it gets, it's going to be able to handle that, which is fantastic. So for R-Weave, that scalability is enabled by these two technologies called Blockweave and bundles. And what Blockweave basically lets you do is store data of any size in a transaction. And what bundling lets you do is lets you split up that data into as many pieces as you want. So the end result is you can store as many pieces of data and as big as you want. So AO is able to achieve its scale using a couple other models called SCP and message passing. Now, SCP basically means you're able to achieve consensus using only the inputs of the computation. And because those inputs are stored permanently on R-Weave, you're always able to achieve the same consensus between nodes. The other way AO is able to achieve scale is using message passing. And what this means is basically you can run almost like as many parallel blockchains as you want and have them communicate to each other using this message passing. And this enables basically horizontal scalability, just like you'd have on a multi-threaded CPU, for example, except it's as many cores as you want. So where do I fit into the story? So I'm a developer in the R-Weave ecosystem. For a couple of years now, I've worked on some major apps like R-Drive, which is a kind of like Dropbox, but using permanent storage on R-Weave. So I've participated in a bunch of community hackathons, for example, Weaver hackathons, and I've even been a judge in them. So right now I'm developing an AI-powered game on AO called Llamaland, and I'll be demoing that shortly. You can see how that works. I'm also working on this project called Reality Protocol, which is sort of like a game engine or metaverse engine built on R-Weave and AO. And the idea is you'll be able to create these virtual worlds which you can share not only with your friends but also with AI agents and interact with them. So you might be wondering why you'd want to run AI on blockchain technology like AO in the first place. Well, you've got these other options like ChatGPT, OpenAI APIs, work pretty well, but there's some kind of non-obvious reasons why you'd want it on blockchain instead. So first of all, it makes it really easy to integrate with the rest of your Web3 system. So if you're making a D app, it kind of makes sense to have all of your infrastructure on the same platform. If it's like partly Web3, partly Web2, you've got this problem where you have to bridge across, and it just becomes like an architectural nightmare. So by running it on Web3, you can do lots of cool stuff like really easy token integrations. For example, you can make it so someone has to have a NFT in order to access the AI, or they have to pay some amount of token to access it. So the next thing, AI compute, just like any other compute on AO, is completely trustlessly verifiable. So what this means is that any users of your application are able to check that the output that you gave them is exactly as it should be. This is really important for some use cases like financial stuff where you've got tokens on the line. You want your users to be absolutely sure that they're not getting cheated based on the output of the AI. So being able to prove to them that the output of the AI is exactly as it should be and hasn't been tampered with is actually quite important. So next is the long-term availability of your AI application. You might have noticed that a lot of the AI APIs out there sort of end up deprecating some of the models and then they no longer have them for access. So that's one aspect here, like you have to kind of keep upgrading your application to keep in line with the latest models. And that means like stuff like the behavior is going to change over time. And if you want an application to just continue working using AI, it's really like a good option to have. So if you want your application to keep working in the long term without having to rely on these sort of external API providers, then running it on-chain is actually a very good option. So lastly, because you're running on AO and Arweave, you inherit all of the really nice properties about censorship resistance. So you're able to deliver your application to people no matter where they are in the world, even if it's blocked, for example. So now it's time to demo a Web3 game that I've developed myself called Llama Land. And it's got a really cool AI mechanic that integrates in with tokens and everything. So it's a very interesting use case of the kind of stuff you can do with AI on-chain. So this is Llama Land. It's a browser-based game, and actually all of the assets and the application itself are hosted on Arweave. So that's a really cool benefit of using Arweave for your project, is not only can you put your game logic on-chain, but you can put pretty much all of the assets and data that you need as well. And they're automatically available through a global content delivery network called AR+AO. So anyone in the world can access your website straight away. So we're going to log in here. And here we are at the main area in Llama Land. So my guy here is right in the middle because it says Elliot S. He's got the t-shirt with AO written on it. And all of these guys around us right now are actually NPCs. So you can walk around and discover the area. And you can also click on an NPC to interact with them. So there's this guy here called Llama Media. If you click on him, he offers a service to actually make an advertisement in Llama Land. So you can give him some Llama coin, which is the currency of this area, and you fill in this form and he'll set up an advertising worker for you. So if you look at this guy here, this is actually an advertisement that I've set up for a certain area in the world. But there's all kinds of NPCs you can make in Llama Land, and there's one really cool one that's in this building called the Llama Reserve. So this guy here is the Llama King, and he has a really interesting mechanic called petition. So you click on him to see how it works. So what you do here is you give him an offering of 1 Llama coin, and you try and convince him to give you as many Llama coin as you can. And the persuasiveness of what you're saying is actually assessed by a natural language model. So at the moment, he's asking about your favorite anime, and he wants some good reasoning of why it's good. So if I say, for example, my favorite anime is Dragon Ball Z because it has awesome fight scenes, I can submit that to the king. It's popping up with a confirmation window here because I'm transferring some currency. And the Llama King has heard our request, and he said he's going to go watch some episodes and get back to us. So what he's actually doing is he's putting our response into an LLM and asking the LLM to rate how persuasive the reasoning was. And so based on that natural language model, it's going to give us a score for how persuasive it was, and using that, it's going to calculate however much payout we're going to get in Llama coin. So we can see some other players nearby, and they've also been playing this game. So this guy's got a response, compelling recommendation highlighting character development and thematic depth. And he's got 200 Llama coins for that one. And then the King's responded to me as well, and he says, strong connection to Dragon Ball Z, which could be persuasive to fans of the series. And he's given me 200 Llama coin for that. So again, this is a AI making a decision about how persuasive the argument was, and then immediately gets turned into a real cryptocurrency. This is Llama coin on AO, and immediately gets sent to the player. So a really nice showcase of integrating all of these different benefits of using blockchain. And yeah, it's kind of cool use case, I think. So to help people trying to get started dipping their toes into on-chain AI, I've made this repository on GitHub, which is basically everything you need to know to get started, send your first requests to an AI model. So the URL I'll put in the video description, and you'll be able to clone this to your local computer and start playing around with it. So I've downloaded this repository to my local computer and opened it up in VS Code. And you can see there's a couple little prerequisite steps here to get started before you can send any requests. So first you'll need to install the AOS CLI, and there's a very simple command for that here. You just copy paste this into your terminal and it'll work just fine. Now another thing to note, at the moment we're on the AO testnet, which means all of the computation is completely free for developers to test out. But when it comes to AI stuff, running the computation is a lot more expensive, so we need some way of kind of restricting how much people can use it. And the way we're doing that is just by making it so you have to pay a small amount of tokens just to activate the LLM service. So the token we're using is wrapped Arweave, and you can get that a couple of ways. You can go to wardepot.arweave.net, and that'll let you buy it using Ethereum or USDC. And the other way is to, if you already have Arweave tokens, is you can go to this website aox.xyz, and you'll be able to convert your Arweave tokens into wrapped Arweave, which can be sent around on AO. So you only need like a very, very small amount, like a couple of cents, to do pretty much whatever you want. But you will have to get your hands on a little bit yourself. Okay, so with that set up, we can run the demo. So with that set up, we can go on to running the actual demo, and it's got a list of instructions here. First of all, you have to spin up a new AOS process. So to do that, it's very simple. You just type in AOS and then whatever process name you want. So I'm going to call mine my cool fun AI process. And the AOS terminal will connect up and spawn a process. Cool, so our process has started up, and now the next step is we transfer that wrapped Arweave tokens that we acquired to the process itself using ArConnect. So ArConnect is a browser extension which holds all of your Arweave and AO tokens. So we can open that up here, and we can send, this is the icon for wrapped Arweave, and we want to get the address of our process here and copy paste that into the recipient, and then we just need to send a very, very small amount. So something like this will be plenty. Cool, and that's done. So you can see our process has already received this message, which is a credit notice, which is telling us that we've received the wrapped Arweave that we're going to use to pay for the AI inference. So now we've got tokens in our process, we can go on to actually setting up the library that's going to let us talk to the LLM, and that's called Llama Herder. So we can see we've just received our tokens, which is good, and now it's on to the step. So we're going to install. APM is the AOS package manager, and it lets you install packages that other people have uploaded, written in Lua code. So we've just updated the APM package, and now we're installing the Llama Herder package. And we can see that's been successfully installed. Now there's just a couple more lines here, and this will set up the package and get the latest prices for inference. Cool, so with that out of the way, we can go on to doing a actual test of the LLM. So there's an example file here, and what it's doing is it's asking the LLM what's the meaning of life, and then asking just for a few tokens in response. And then once it gets that, it's going to print out the text and insert it into a table. So let's run this. So in order to load some Lua code, we want to get the path for that file. And then in AOS, we type .load space, and then the path for the file. And this will execute that code on the process. We can see that it's transferred some tokens in order to pay for the inference, and now the LLM process will get back to us with the result. Cool, so it's just a few seconds later and the LLM has given us this response, which is the meaning of, so looks like it was about to tell us what the meaning of life was, but we cut it off because we only gave it 5 tokens to talk. So let's try another example. So this is a bit more of an advanced example, and the objective here is to try and get the LLM to tell us a joke. So it's going to set up the prompt as it would for a chatbot, and it's going to insert a system prompt, which is going to be tell a joke on the given topic, and then there's going to be the user supplied content, which is the topic of the joke. And then we're going to run an inference, and this time we're going to be generating 30 tokens. It should generate a response which has ideally a joke about cats. So let's run this and see what happens. So again, just like the last one, we're going to get the path of this Lua file, type in .load space, and then the path, and it'll send this to the process and request the LLM to generate a response. Okay, so we've got our response back from the LLM, and what does it say? Why don't cats play poker in the jungle? Too many cheetahs. Alright, that's alright. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to get started. To do proper development on AOS, you're going to have to understand a little bit about the Lua programming language, which is what all this code is written in order to sort of make an application that kind of uses the results in an intelligent way. So if you're interested in learning more about AOS, I'd recommend the AO cookbook. I'll provide a link for that as well. If we go to cookbook.ao.gateway.io, then it'll take you right here, and there's all kinds of tutorials for how to do these basic things, and then you can use this LLM stuff you've learned to enhance your apps to make them more intelligent.